change key, sing it too. Ganesha Sharanam Sharanam Ganesha. Ganesha Sharanam Sharanam Ganesha. Yeah. Here we go. Ganesha Sharanam Sharanam Ganesha. 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 Vagisha Sharanam Sharanam Vagisha. 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 Shiva. Shivaya Namo Namah Shivaya. 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 Govinda Jaya Jaya Radhe Govinda. 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 Ganesha Sharanam Sharanam Ganesha. 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 Ganesha Sharanam Ganesha. Ganesha Sharanam Sharanam Ganesha. Shivaya Namo Namah Shivaya. 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 Shivaya Namo Namah Shivaya.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Should put the volume for you.
Namaste, Swamiji. How are you?
Very well. How are you doing? I can only see
I'm just
the symbol of the Atlanta Center.
Yeah, I'm trying.
that is, yeah.
We're trying to
I think they are in the shrine over there. Go ahead, Girish.
No, we're trying to connect the camera. So just.
Let me. Good morning, Chetan. I'm doing all right, thank you.
Unmute myself. I think I was on mute.
Yes, you were. I read your lips as best I could.
Wonderful to see you. Looks like you have a lot of mountains right behind you.
Yes, these are the Santa Barbara Mountains, the coastal range.
Ah,
They're what keep it nice and cool.
oh, okay. Where are you, Swamiji?
I'm in Santa Barbara.
Ah,
I'm
okay.
posted at the Santa Barbara Center up on the hill.
Ah, okay.
So.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, it's the very definition of beauty.
Oh, okay.
So
Really.
Maharaj, this is for monks or for nuns?
Both. I am the first monk posted here in probably 20 or 30 years, but there's always been a monastery here where the visiting swamis would stay when they gave lectures and whatnot.
Ah,
So I'm posted at one end of the property in the monastery by my lonesome, and at the other end is the convent with the nuns.
ah,
Oh,
okay.
I see. So it's the same property.
Yes, same property. I think it's 45 acres, something like
Wow.
that.
Oh, okay.
45 acres. Okay, wow.
I know, in Montecito, California, it's unbelievable.
Ah,
Yes. All
Girish
right.
ji.
hello, Shailesh ji. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we're having some difficulty getting the other camera set up.
Oh, no worries. Just let me know when to put my batteries in.
I think we're ready to, yeah, everyone here is ready to listen to you. Swami Steve.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Wonderful to see you. I've been enjoying my time out here. For those of you who don't know, I was in Colorado.
Swamiji.
What's that?
We are all waiting for you, Swamiji. I think everybody.
Oh, okay. I thought somebody stopped me there. All right. So I was, if you trying to keep up with where I'm going and what I'm doing, I was in Colorado for 2.5 years and doing a little experiment there. And now I've been posted to Santa Barbara in Southern California. So that's what you see out my window here. I have to tell people that's not a fake background. That's my backyard. Actually, technically, it's my front yard, but that's because the house is backwards. But at a convent, at the convent, it's a convent center, which means the nuns actually run the center. And I'm in the monastery up at the far end. Probably nobody has heard that there was a monastery in Santa Barbara. It's been unmanned for the last 20 or 30 years and has just been a place for the visiting swamis to stay when they came to speak here. But they've placed me here to kind of be the mule for the property, carry the heavy things, pick up, help weed whack all of this stuff. Because as you know, in Southern California, we're always in danger of fires. And so a lot of my duties are out there, trimming back the brush and hauling off a dead tree and all of these very, very important tasks. And so I've been here for about 5 months now, enjoying this beauty. And that's going to reflect in what I'd love to share this morning. I want to talk about the enjoyment of the soul, really, the peace of the soul. That this whole idea of finding out who we are, of coming to a knowledge of ourself, is paramount to your life. And I don't say that as a spiritual person. I don't say that as a Swami. I say that as a lover of bliss, a lover of great lives, of joyful lives, of peaceful lives. And, I've been on this quest for a long time, probably lifetimes, as all of us have. And the sum total of those lifetimes have brought us all together this morning to talk about the beauty of the soul, the beauty of the self, and the wonder of life when we come to see ourself and we let go of the narratives, let go of the pains, let go of the self-doubts, let go of the self-hatreds that have been placed in us by various means and for various reasons. And all of them can be set aside this morning. I want to read a little bit from Swamiji here as he's quoting from the Upanishads and from Hafiz also. He says, "This earth is blissful to all beings, and all beings are sweet to this earth. They all help each other, and all the sweetness is the Atman, that effulgent, immortal one who is inside this earth," right? And the earth being inside of us, actually, when Vivekananda makes that point. This world is not outside of ourselves. And I make a point of this so many times I get embarrassed by bringing it up. But I just want to remind you that everything that you are seeing right now, hearing, tasting, and touching right now is not external to you. And that very simple process of thinking will reveal that to you. In the sense that, I'll remind you, and I'll only do this once, that when you look at the light bulb there in the room, or you look at that wonderful painting that's on the front of your temple there, on the temple wall, you're not actually having a first-hand experience of it. You're having a second-hand experience of it because that light is hitting the back of your eyes, being translated into biochemical information, being transported to the visual section of your brain, where that information then is pulled in by the brain, and the brain's like, oh my God, what do we do with this? And they try and recreate what the eye has seen. So it creates a symbol of what it thinks the eye has seen as it has interpreted from the information, and it presents that symbol to you, right? And so you are living in a mind. You are living in the divine mind. That's why they say everything is consciousness. You have never seen, tasted, touched, heard, or smelled material. That's why we have such a hard time in science finding matter. Because in fact, as quantum physics is now beginning to point to us, is that we live in the mind of God. We live in a world of thought. And this is going to become very important because it'll be an easy reminder for you, if you can come to know this, that you live in God. That indeed all of these symbols that you're seeing of this imagined external world are made of Brahman. Brahman is the dream stuff or the mind stuff that creates the world of the dream. and creates the world of the waking, actually. This week, when I was reading I Am That by Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, I stumbled on him where he was talking about the four states of consciousness. And interestingly enough, he did something that I haven't seen before. He says he described the states as the waking dream state, the dream state, the deep state, the deep sleep state, and then, of course, the fourth state, Turiya, beyond it all. And so he was talking about those four states, but the fact that he used the waking dream state, I loved, because that's the fact. The world that you're looking at right now, what you're experiencing, is exactly the same as the world in dream that you have created in your mind. At that point in the dream state, it's divorced from any connection to a supposed or an assumed outside world. It's just the free flow, universal thought of your mind creating in real time a physical world for you to inhabit during the dream. And of course, all of that is trippy enough just to spend an hour or two just pondering, pondering it. For a couple of days after I was thinking that way, I was running around just kind of touching everything, picking up a book, touching a flower, looking at things so closely, and becoming amazed at the power of mind, becoming amazed at the resolution of mind, and what an amazing feat to create in real time a world that I inhabit, to such the degree that I believe that I'm in it, that I believe I'm a part of it. And for that to happen, I had to create a thought of myself and place it among thoughts, right? In this world of Maya, this world of word, this world of change, constant and unrepeating. And the nature of this world is blissful, right? Any time that we stop the narratives of ego, stop the narratives of mind, we stumble into that beauty. It's the reason we go camping, if you go camping, or go hiking, if you go hiking, or go out in the yard and garden. It's because being in root touch with the symbol of the reality, the symbol of the divine beloved, right? To be in touch with that is to experience that perfect harmony. That's why we call it beautiful. I've looked out this window so many times and I say, oh my God, that's so beautiful. And it always begs the question, how do I know that? I've never been taught beauty. I've never had to take a class to know what is beautiful. It's a part and parcel of what we are. We are beauty itself in our essence. And that is the nature of this universe. And so when a holy man looks out this window or looks at your face, it looks at anything, looks at a burned up McDonald's bag in the gutter, whatever it is, he will say, this earth is blissful to all beings, and all beings are sweet to this earth. They all help each other, right? You can see in the way that all these rocks and things are arranged out here that there's a harmony there. You can see the twisting of the branches as they're reaching for light, right? What a beautiful metaphor. Every one of these plants out here has spent their life reaching for light, reaching for the light of the divine, right? That's a wonderful metaphor everywhere present. And when you look at an old, dead, gnarled tree in the desert, you see the effort, you see the lifelong longing of that plant to touch the sun, every part of it reaching and pushing its branches out and focusing its leaves toward, in constant praise, in constant absorption of this divinity, of this wonderful bliss of light, this bliss of this world. Whose is this sweetness? How can there be any sweetness but He? That one sweetness is manifesting itself in various ways. Wherever there is any love, wherever there is any sweetness in any human being, either in a saint or a sinner, either in an angel or a murderer, either in the body, the mind, or the senses, it is He. It is the divine beloved. Now that He is metaphorical, that He is she, that, everything in between and everything outside and anything imagined, right? That divine beloved expressing Himself. You know why this world is constantly changing? It's because no frame of the moment is enough to contain God. It will take an infinite number of frames of the moment to contain God. And that is why God in His manifesting, God in word, God in this world, manifesting for us. It is an eternal flow of information that will last forever and still not be finished with the book that describes the divine beloved. And so to look out this window and not just see, oh, look, beautiful mountains, beautiful rocks, beautiful trees. That's the delusion, to think that anything in this beauty is beautiful in and of itself. We look through everything to what this is a symbol of. We look through the symbol and try to imagine, of course, it's a ridiculous effort on our part, but to try and imagine the nature of the beloved behind it, that which it is constantly describing, that which it is constantly pointing at. So all beauty, all nature is God showing herself to you, dancing with you, teaching you. The nature of this universe is God, Satchitananda, love, wisdom, and being. And so this moment, if you can possibly become aware of it, is an ongoing conversation between you and the highest love possible. A constant lesson, a constant tutoring from the divine beloved to you of what his nature, her nature is, and consequently what yours is. And why is it so important to know what your nature is? Because that is the nature that you have to touch to find fulfillment, to find meaning, to find the purpose of life, to understand the glory, the wonder of the moment, this being. He goes on, physical enjoyments are but he, right? So that glass of wine that you may or may not drink, that cup of tea that you may or may not drink, that moment in the sun on the back porch at the end of a long day of work, everything is your divine beloved. And what a wonderful thing to take something that we are accustomed to just seeing as a feeling. Oh, what a sweet evening. Oh, what a cool breeze. And we leave it at the material. We leave it at the body, at the doorstep. We don't bring it in. Bring it in now. Feel that loving breeze and take the next step. Understand it is the caress of the divine on you. Smell that beautiful flower and take it as a momentary gift, made of nothing, for nothing, no reason necessary, just an imagined beauty for you from your divine beloved. I always go around, it's been a habit of mine ever since I moved to Colorado 3 years ago, to look for these little vignettes of beauty that you wouldn't normally notice unless you were looking for them. When you're conscious of something, the world changes its nature in a sense. It presents to you something deeper. So if you go around looking for love letters of God, as it were, to look around and find these little vignettes of beauty that Mother has composed for you to find during the day. If you walk consciously, you'll see them and you'll receive many of them in a day and you'll enjoy every one of them. Sometimes you'll even stop and be like, that's amazing. I remember the very first one that I ever saw with that awareness. I went out looking for vignettes of beauty from my mother to me. And I was walking through a forest actually in Switzerland, so I was cheating a little bit because it was so beautiful there. But I went walking in the woods and it was misting out. And so it was somewhat cloudy, but very high clouds. And the sun slipped under the clouds and came in at a very sharp angle through the forest. So in that mist, all of those rays of light were shining through that mist in these tall ancient trees in the Swiss forest. And I looked down, and at the base of one of these trees was just this perfect arrangement, a little purple flower coming up, highlighted by some green moss on the tree that the rays were hitting directly and giving it sort of that dappled look, and the old bark on the side, and a small little ant kind of weaving its way up there, and a small vine that was just dropping its set of leaves right next to that purple flower in the perfect way. And I sat there and I looked at that, and the more that I looked at that, and the more that I understood that that had been made for me in this moment, that the beloved had placed that there for me in that moment to enjoy. What a delightful, delightful moment I had, something that I will never forget. My first love letter that I noticed from God, because it was the first time in 60 years that I had looked for it. And ever since then, I go around and I see them everywhere. Just little things that I would have not noticed before, that I wouldn't have seen. All of those are for you, not in a generalized way. It's not like you stumbled on it. There's not such thing as stumbling on something in the presence of God, right? And this is how life changes. This is how our understanding changes. When you come to that state and look upon all things with the same eye, when you see even in the drunkard's pleasure in drink only that sweetness, then you have got the truth, and then you will know what happiness means, what peace means, what love means. And so long as we all make these vain distinctions, these silly, childish, foolish superstitions, all sorts of misery will come. What are these distinctions? It's these nonsensical little narratives that are constantly floating through your mind that are produced by ego. They're produced because the ego needs a constant set of descriptions of what's going on in the world so that it can feel in charge, because it has defined itself as separate. So it lives in a constant fear, right? It lives in a constant unease, a constant, what's that word I'm looking for? Lack of confidence, right? Because in actuality, our ego self does not exist, right? Ramakrishna says, I went looking for my ego and I tell you the truth, I could not find it, right? It's not because he was uniquely egoless, although he was uniquely egoless. He had some ego. He had to have an ego to have a body. But nonetheless, in ourself, this ego world, it's constantly making up a narrative to maintain its existence, to maintain its security, to maintain its sense of self, which is based on nothing. And so it's frantic. And so in your mind, have you ever had somebody do something happens to you? The person walks by and bumps your table and knocks your milk over at the lunchroom, right? And you look up and you're angry. Why? Because your narratives are angry. You look up and you assume, oh, this person did this, and then you wonder, did they do it on purpose? And then you see who it was and you're like, oh man, they did that on purpose. Right? And then you're in a state of mind and your hair stands up in the back of your neck. You're just like, I can't believe that they did that to me. Right? And it becomes a narrative that plays in your mind every time you see that person. Right? These narratives that come in and block our view of God, block our view of the moment. Your ego and Maya are synonymous. They are the same thing. It is because you believe yourself separate that you can't enjoy the oneness. It's because you believe yourself insecure that you are always frantically looking for evidence that you're a good person, that you're a nice person, that you're a kind person. Always walking into a room and looking around and thinking, do I have the nicest sari? Do I have the prettiest bangles? Do I have the best job? Do I look tall? Is my hair okay? All of this, while we could be looking at this and seeing the divine presence in every person in that room, where we could see God dancing, we could see the love flowing, the harmony working as everybody's trying not to bump into each other and not to spill anybody's drinks and not to say an angry word. Everybody trying to get along in a social, appropriate way. You can look at that any way that you want, but the reality, it's the harmony and the peace of God expressing itself as we all stand together, right? As we all live this life together. And yes, there are times we bump into somebody. There are times when we make a mistake. There are times when there's violence and trouble. We see that in the world right now. But we look through it because we understand there's something to be learned in all of it. And we struggle in the presence of God to see how that could be love, to understand how could that be truth, how could that be God. And in that constant wrestle, we grow deeper and we become firmer and we understand more. But our challenge is to look out there and see nothing but the action and the description and the presentation and the story and narrative of divine love, of divine wisdom manifesting through our being. Right? So come to that state and look upon all these things with the same eye. And then you begin to see that even the drunkard's pleasure in drink is only that sweetness, that enjoyment of God. We saw that in Ramakrishna. Do you remember when he was in that carriage ride going from Daksha, I think it's going to Calcutta, and he's in a divinely intoxicated state, and it says that he's literally hanging out the windows of the coach, just enjoying the touch of God on his face in the wind. And they drive past a tavern, and there's some drunkards singing and cajoling out front, absolutely drunk off their rear ends, right? Just laughing. And what is Swamiji, not Swamiji, what is Ramakrishna, who is God himself, the direct manifestation of God? What does he see? He doesn't run by and say, oh, look at those sinners, look at those horrible drunkards. Oh, so irresponsible in their life. No. Ramakrishna, actually, it's recorded in the gospel as saying he was leaning out of the carriage, enjoying the bliss of God, and he sees them, and he says, yes, yes, enjoy the bliss of the divine, the bliss of the divine, right? He sees that because he understands that everything, all forms of joy, all forms of pleasure, right, is God, is of God. And knowing this, becoming aware of this, and focusing on this is how we fall in love and release our own nature. Right? When you see even the drunkard's pleasure in drink, only that sweetness, then you have got the truth, and then you will know what happiness means, what peace means, what love means. And so long as all of these vain distinctions, silly and childish, foolish superstitions, all sorts of misery will come because of these little narratives generated by the ego to explain what you're seeing when you do not understand that it is all a vision of the one. But that immortal one, that effulgent one, he is inside the earth, and it is all his sweetness. And the same sweetness is in the body. This body is the earth, as it were, and inside all the powers of the body, all the enjoyments of the body, is he. The eyes see, the skin touches. What are all these enjoyments? That self-effulgent one who is in the body. He is the Atman, the soul. This world, so sweet to all beings, and every being so sweet to it, is but the same self-effulgent. The immortal is the bliss of that world. In us also, he is that bliss. He is Brahman. He is that material of dreams that creates the world, that weaves your experience. He is everything right now, right? In this moment, imagine the dream. If you're sitting in a dream right now, which Sri Nisargadatta would say you are, as you sit in this dream, where do you begin and where does God end, right? Where is the boundary of you and the boundary of God? Look around the room. Where is the separation of these objects, right? If Brahman is the air between you and that chair, and Brahman is that chair, then where is the boundary between Brahman and Brahman, right? Where is the distinction? When you get up and move and you feel that flow of this Brahmanic air flowing around your body, where is the distinction? Where is the separation? In the dream, where does mind stop and object begin? Right? You see very clearly this is a puzzle that cannot be answered because there is no distinction. We know what the ultimate reality is. The air is so sweet to all beings, and all beings are so sweet to it. But who is that self-effulgent immortal being in the air? That he is also in this body. He is expressing himself as the life in all beings. To see this, to know this, not to imagine it, not to do a layover on it, not to put a layer of interpretation on it. What we need to do to see this and to experience this is to stop the layers, to stop the narratives. All you need is silence. You don't need to walk around saying, oh, that's God, that's God, that's God, that's God. You just need to walk around silencing the mind when it tells you anything but God, when it creates any narrative. because it's the underlying reality that we're knowing. It's not a way of seeing. It's not a perspective of the world. It is the nature of life, the nature of being, the nature of seeing. He keeps going. It just keeps going. It's so beautiful. This sun is so sweet to all beings, right? All beings are so sweet to this sun. We know this intrinsically. Did you ever see the Teletubbies? If you've ever had toddlers, I know you've seen the Teletubbies, that TV show for kids. And the sun has a face in it, of course. And the sun is so sweet to the Teletubbies, and the Teletubbies love the face of the sun. It's the parent in the show, you know, the nurturer in the show, the sun taking care of all of us. And indeed it is, right? It is the sun that shines on everyone equally. It's the sun that we enjoy, the sunset, the sunrise, the beauty of it everywhere. All of the leaves of every tree and bush in the planet reaching to touch it in response to that compassion, in response to that life, to that love. And we in turn eat them and have bodies. And we are nurtured by that same sun, that same light, right? That same being. The sun is so sweet to all beings, and all beings so sweet to the sun. He who is self-effulgent, being in the sun, we reflect him as the smaller light. What can there be but his reflection? He is in the body, and it is his reflection which makes us see the light. This moon is so sweet to all, and everyone is so sweet to the moon. But that self-effulgent and immortal one who is the soul of that moon, he is in us, expressing himself as mind. As mind. This world of symbols that you've created from this imagined external. This imagined external is that one without a second. And it's imagined because it is not external, right? It is internal. It is the beloved playmate manifesting as your mind. Manifesting as all that is in your mind. Manifesting as word, right? You take the mind, you put a little drop of me and mine in it, and the universe appears. Shakti appears. Shakti appears as the constant flow of unrepeating change. And that is mind with the drop of me and mine in it. Remove that me and mine, and Brahman is all that there is. The mind, the pure mind, and Brahman, Ramakrishna says, are one and the same. And so you put that drop of ignorance, that drop of separation, the drop of me and mine, just one drop in that ocean of divine bliss, and boom, billions of narratives upon narratives appear. Descriptions of suns and moons and planets and experiences and people and enemies and friends and lovers and haters, all sparks into existence because you've made that simple choice to be separate and apart from the whole. And so things then become judged on how they feel. Good things feel good, bad things feel bad. And you're tossed to and fro in this world, having no idea what is what. Never realizing that the problem is that you've made one wrong assumption, that you are separate from love, that you are separate from wisdom, that you are separate from being. Right? This lightning is so beautiful. Every one of us is so sweet to the lightning, but the self-effulgent and immortal one is the soul of this lightning and is also in us because all is that Brahman, the Atman, the self, the king of all beings. This is the truth and the reality of this world. What blocks us? Expression is necessarily degeneration, right? This world is just a copy of the divine, an expression in word, right? In John, one of my favorite scriptures in the New Testament of the Christians, in the beginning was the Word, right? Was this potential of vibration, this potential of existence. In the beginning was Word, and the Word was with God, right? So it was separate from God. They were companions, and the Word was God. So they were not separate, right? And so you see that in the divine moment, that is the possibility of both, that this world exists and this world is God. This with God is God, right? In its unmanifested pure form, with no thought of me and mine in it, no thought of separation, then it's the one without a second, the absolute unchanging, the very center pole of all possibilities. And then one thought of separation, boom, the universe, word, is now with God, right? And that's why we don't automatically see it as God, because now we see it as separate and it's coming in through the senses. So we no longer see a unity in it, right? We've taken that one without a second, we've become separate from it, so now there's a second, and now we experience that oneness, but the first thing we do is break it into its 5 pieces, right? Light, sound, taste, touch, smell. We break God into 5 separate pieces and store him in pieces in the mind and draw relationships between those pieces in the mind. And now we live in a relative world of thought, the world of Shakti, right? An ever incomplete image of God, where the mind is furiously trying to recreate a unity that it knows it's experiencing, but is experiencing it through pieces metered out over time. And so the ego self forms. Why? Because it's afraid and it's hungry and it feels separate and it feels alone. And so it needs to eat. It needs to enjoy. It needs to be smart. It needs to be beautiful. And your life of slavery begins to constantly keep this ever melting body beautiful, to try and keep this ever changing mind still and peaceful, right? And round we go. But it's because we see only the pieces. We see only the thought of the world. And we live only as the thought of ourself, right? Because if there is no direct experience of the outside world and we're only looking at symbols, then we live in a world of symbols, a world of mind. And in order to live in the world of mind, you have to create a thought of yourself. And that thought of yourself is your ego self, a self with attributes, hungers and desires, aversions and fears, right? So expression, this world, is necessarily a degeneration because spirit can only be expressed by the letter, right? Put a few letters together, you have word. Expressed by the letter. And as St. Paul said, the letter kills. Right? This world, this breaking up of God into these finite pieces. God can never be enjoyed through finite pieces. We can never come to a fullness of knowledge through finite pieces because these finite pieces have an infinity of smaller pieces behind them. And so Vivekananda says, you take even a grain of sand and study it for your entire life. And he says, I tell you the truth, when you die, you will have more questions about that grain of sand than the day you first began to study it. That's the nature of this illusion. God cannot be caught in the finite, right? God cannot be caught here. That's why the moment constantly changes, right? We sit here in awe. If we could see but a moment what we are actually looking at, that is what Ramakrishna called samadhi. He knew that what he was seeing, tasting, hearing, touching, smelling, and being was the divine essence itself, Satchidananda. And when he could see that, when that became clear, the body stood in awe, still, silenced. His sense of self left the boundaries of the body, and he becomes everyone in the room. He becomes every thought in the universe. He becomes every ounce of beauty ever seen, ever to be seen, that ever was seen. And what happens? The mind shuts down, the body shuts down. And in that last gasp of awe, he disappears into the one without a second. An eternal bliss, an immense bliss, one that shorts the body out, shorts the mind out. That's what samadhi is. It's a body and mind that has been shorted out, that cannot accept, that cannot understand, that cannot absorb the beauty, the love, the peace, the wisdom that it is trying to swallow, that it is trying to see. Yet principle must be clothed in matter to be known. So even though this world is a degradation, it's God's means of conversing, it's God's means of manifesting so that he can be known, so that little old you can have a little vignette in the forest that you never forget, a love letter, something expressing the divine nature, right? And this is why we go out into the woods, to get away from the right angles of ego. You know, you look at the things that people create, there's always those right angles of ego everywhere. These obstructions. You know, it used to drive me nuts in Colorado to be driving across this beautiful expanse of prairie and then just seeing this little walled in gated community of McMansions, you know, built as a specialty of Home Depot. And I look at that on one side. This is what man creates. This is what ego creates, right? And I look to the other side and I see the range of the mountains and I'm like, God, what a difference. What a difference. This inspired by money, that inspired by love and wisdom, right? And these are the choices we make. These are the choices we make. Yet the principle must be clothed in matter to be known. We lose sight of the real in the covering and come to consider that as the real instead as of the symbol, right? And so our whole problem is we live in this world of symbols. We create a symbol of ourself to inhabit that mind. We wander as a thought of ourself among thoughts. All of our senses are merely thoughts by the time we see them, right? Everything is a thought. Every object is only a thought. Every relationship between those objects is only a thought. And we begin to think that the thoughts are real, that the symbols are real. And the symbols are always changing, and symbols die, and people go, and people come. And we can't stand that because we believe that to be the reality. We don't hear the underlying song. Why? Because that song is one note eternal of bliss and wisdom and being. And we have long ago whited out that noise as disturbance. Long ago forgotten our nature, because it didn't fit with our picture of partiality and our thought of ourself. This is our universal mistake. It's the one everybody's making at this very moment. The Narada Bhakti Sutras say, giving up all other refuge, he takes refuge in God alone. Right? This is understanding that there is no refuge in symbols. There is no refuge in narratives. There is no refuge in that which is constantly changing. And so don't be a fool. And why do I use the word fool? Because if the world is constantly changing, you have never seen any stability in it at all, anywhere, for any reason, and yet you build your house in it, thinking that that is real, that that will always be there. Right? You create a family in it and you think, oh, that is real. That will always be there. Right? You fall in love with lovers. Oh, they are my security. They will always be there. But nobody can always be there. Nobody can be unchanging. All of those things that you're putting your trust in, they're all unstable by nature. They're all changing constantly. Right? You try and make your mind happy. Well, if you could make your mind happy, it would have to be the same mind all the time. But your mind is always changing. You know, Ramakrishna had that experience. He wanted to taste sweets. He loved sweets, right? And he found that he had a desire for sweets. So he locked himself in a room full of sweets for a whole day, ate as many of them as they were wanted. And then he came out afterwards and, Matur Babu Asum, how do you feel, Maharaj? Oh, I feel sick. And he saw the nature. You know, your mind wants a candy. Yes, we'll give it a candy and it'll be happy for a moment. Then it wants another candy. Give it another candy. It'll be happy for a moment. Then you have to get another candy. Well, this time it doesn't want the same candy. No, I've had the lemon ones twice. Let's try a raw strawberry one. And so now you have to get a strawberry one, right? And what does it do? It keeps you on a treadmill, running after your desires, because they're changing all the time. You can't find contentment in the mind. You can't find a content mind, because a mind is always wandering and surveying the senses for some delectable little hors d'oeuvre it hasn't tasted before. The eyes never grow tired of seeing. The ears never grow tired of hearing. When will you learn this lesson, O seeker, and give up the quest? Right? Look beyond. Give up all other refuge and take refuge in God alone. Why? Because all of these other refuges are not refuges. They're constantly changing. Right? These other refuges are what? They're distractions. That is the only thing the world can give you. That is the only thing that the symbols can give you. Distraction from a moment of your pain. Distraction from the moment, for the moment of your anxiety, right? Of your depression, of your loneliness, of your hurt. Go and have that drink at the club as your solution, as your refuge. And what happens? It leaves you naked and alone and sorry in the morning. And your problem returns in the exact same form that it was in when you started that drink, right? Any refuge, anything that you're doing. And we've all, I promise you, we've all got thousands of refuges besides God. We get lonely, we call a friend. That's a refuge. We get bored, we go to a movie. That's a refuge, right? We get insecure about money, so we pull out and look at our stocks and bonds and see that they're all going up. Right? Illusion upon illusion, distraction upon a distraction, but no healing, no empowering, no strengthening, no peace that is lasting. Give up all of these distractions and find the beloved presence within you. Within you, you've got both Shiva and Shakti, right? The absolute unchanging and Shakti, the constant flow of unrepeated change. Both of them are in you right now. The macrocosm and the microcosm are the same. Up here in mind, we have Shakti, constantly changing, constantly vibrating, constantly expressing the divine principle. And in the shrine of the heart, the absolute unchanging, the silent whisper of a constant love, a constant bliss, a constant wisdom, the peace that passes understanding. And all you have to do is take your identity from here and place it here. And you realize your realization is finished already. The scriptures tell you it's already done. There's nothing to construct, there's nothing to achieve, there's nothing to learn. You just have to let go of everything that you've achieved, constructed, and learned. And you have to come and identify with silence rather than with the flash and wonder of change. And when you can move yourself from the thought of yourself, from the thought of being to being, you move into the present moment where you've never lived before, because you cannot live in the mind and be present, because the mind generates thoughts, and thoughts, by the time they're generated and presented, that moment has already passed. So as the ego self, you can only live in the past. You live right on the very edge of the past, and you look at the present and constantly decide what to do with it. But you're not in the present. The only way to be present is to be silent. Silent in thought, no thought. Silent in the heart, identifying with silence as your nature. And you say, well, how can I identify with an absence? Oh, there's your first mistake, to think that silence is an absence. Silence is what gives permission to every word, to every song, to every sound. Silence is the pregnant potential of everything, everywhere, possible all at once. It's a silence of immense and indescribable beauty. It's a silence of immense and indescribable bliss. You are that silence. Find it in the shrine of the heart and sit in the companionship with that divinity until you're swallowed into that oneness. Give up all other refuges and take refuge in God alone. Scriptures are to be followed as long as one's life has not become firm, right? So the scriptures are there as a guidance. You don't know who you are. So the scriptures are trying to cajole you, remind you, push you, poke you, keep you moving in the direction of realization so that you can know who you are. You must obey them until you're stable. How will you know that you're stable? Because you're content in the moment at all times. That's when you've grown up. That's when you've matured. When this moment you express the highest renunciation. What is the highest renunciation? To find every moment perfect. That's the highest renunciation. To find every moment perfect. To know that you never need anything outside of yourself. No symbols for you. No symbols for distraction for you. For you, it's the self, pure awareness, motivated by love alone. Right? The scriptures are necessary only until you are established in love and silence as your nature, until you're established in Satchitananda as who you are, so that no longer is it the mind using hunger to make you move, right? In this world of work, as we've produced it from the ego, every action is the result of hunger, is the result of lack. It's an expression of a need that is so completely unnatural for us. When we move out of the world of mind, out of the world of symbols, the thoughts, and move into the silence, every action becomes an inspiration from the divine principle, from love. So you're moved as love moves you, no longer as hunger moves you. You're inspired into sweetness by fullness and not by a constant sense of lack that drives you to try and change the moment to be perfect when it was already perfect. Right? This is the switch for all of us that has to happen. He says, or else there is a danger of doing evil in the name of liberty. Right? And this is what we see in the world. Everybody trying to make that which is great already great again. Right? This forgetfulness, this constant lack of understanding that the world of thought and symbol will never be anything but perfect, but will always leave a soul who lives in it hungry, if it is ignorant of its source, if it is ignorant of the fact that it is within them and that they are not in it. Vivekananda says, so a man, to prove that he is not a machine, must demonstrate that he is under the control of nothing. That nothing pushes you, nothing forces you, nothing outside of you determines your actions. It's just that sweet song of Satchitananda that manifests you in the moment. Get practical. What are we doing? Vivekananda asks. The son of a pure Brahmin who has sanctified us by his birth. He's talking about Sri Ramakrishna, who has sanctified us by his birth. Or a Christian could be talking about Jesus, or a Buddhist could be talking about Buddha. The son of a poor Brahmin who has sanctified us by his birth, raised us by his work, and has turned the sympathy of the conquering race toward us by his immortal sayings. What are we doing for him? Truth is not always palatable, but still there are times when it has to be told. Some of us do understand that his life and teachings are to our gain, but there the matter ends. It is beyond our power even to make an attempt to put these precepts into practice in our own lives, far less to consign our whole body and soul to the huge waves of harmony, of jnana and bhakti that Sri Ramakrishna has raised. This play of the Lord, Those who have understood or are trying to understand, to them we say, what will mere understanding do? Right? You can't move this from here to here. You cannot bring this to here. You have to abandon here. You have to renounce utterly here and realize that you have always been here. Right? What will mere understanding do? The proof of understanding is in work. Is your work driven or is it inspired? Right? Is God behind you with a whip or is he in front of you singing bhajans? It's your choice. Live by the senses, live by the body, believe the world of symbols, and God will live behind you with a whip. Understand that the nature of God is being played in the world, that this divine principle is being sung in the world, of the world. And then you go forward following the singing sadhu, inspired by the music, the play, the craziness, the audacity of reality. Will others believe you if it ends only in verbal expressions of assurance or is put forward as a matter of personal faith? Work argues that one feels. Work out what you feel and let the world see. All ideas and feelings coming out of the fullness of the heart are known by their fruits, practical works, right? So if your hunger is what drives you to action, then hungry your life will be. If inspiration of being, present in the company of the dancing delight, the beloved, that which we call God sometimes, then your life is full of wisdom and is fulfilled as a byproduct. Purify your mind. Meditate. These ideas are very helpful to men. They are for meditation. For instance, meditate on the earth and think of the earth, that at the same time know that we have that which is in the earth, that both are the same. Identify the body with the earth and identify the soul with the soul behind it. Identify the air with the soul that is in the air, and that is in me. They are all one, manifested in different forms. To realize this unity is the end and aim of all meditation. Purify your mind by coming to that silence so that it can see. Remove the narratives of your ego so that it can find peace and experience the moment as it is and not a moment as the mind thinks it is. Right? Long for it. Sister Christine, in her reminiscences, write, "It is needless to repeat the formal teaching, the great central idea. These one can read for himself. But there was something else, an influence, an atmosphere charged with the desire to escape from bondage. Call it what you will, that can never be put into words, and yet was more powerful than any words. It was this which made us realize that we were blessed beyond words to hear our teacher, Ramakrishna, say, this indecent clinging to life drew aside the curtain for us into the region beyond life and death, and planted in our hearts the desire for that glorious freedom. We saw a soul struggling to escape the meshes of Maya, of ego, one to whom the body was an intolerable bondage, not only a limitation, but a degrading humiliation. Azad, Azad, freedom, freedom, he cried, pacing up and down like a caged lion. Yes, like the lion in a cage, who found the bars not of iron, but of bamboo. Let us not be caught this time, would be his refrain. So many times Maya has caught us, and so many times we exchanged our freedom for sugar dolls, which melted when the water touched them. Let us not be caught this time. So in us was planted the great desire for freedom. Two of the three requisites we already had, a human body and a guru. And now he was giving us the third, the desire to be free. Be courageous. Be presumptuous. Be bold. And claim what has always been yours, your freedom. Learn how to enjoy this world without getting caught in it. This is religion. This is the peace of the soul. All right. If anybody has any questions or comments, concerns.
Raj, namaste. This is Shailesh here.
Yes, Shailesh.
Such a wonderful flow of, I wouldn't say thoughts or ideas, but just something to be pondered upon. Just amazing, especially the last 15 minutes, which you talked about being in the present moment and stepping away from the narrative of the mind, or, trying to stay away, not to take the refuge in all the stuff which mind creates. I definitely think that you staying there at Santa Barbara and living the life what you wanted to live, and such a lofty way of thinking, or the thoughts, the way you're presenting it, it only comes from that kind of a lifestyle, renunciation. It is so difficult to formulate all those great spiritual ideas which we read in a book and actually then share it with us and actually live that life. It's just amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes, certainly, Shailesh. We do call it lofty heights because we see it as something that has to be built. We see it as something that has to be accomplished. But the lofty heights are the ignorance. You're standing on towers of thoughts, towers of ideas that are not real. And so we feel insecure. And it's the problem with that perspective is that when we sit to meditate, we think there's something to be done. We think that we have to quiet our mind. Well, you can't quiet a swimming pool that you're sitting in, that you're swimming in, right? So to quiet the mind, you merely have to step out of it and observe it and not get caught in its thoughts of having anything to do with you. Just let them come and let them go. And in time, as you stand and live as the observer, then the pool begins to calm of its own accord, begins to find its balance of its own accord. We have a little bit of a disadvantage, though. I was just reading in a Psychology Today article the other day that in our mind, in the left hemisphere, there's a module called the interpreter module, whose sole job is to create a narrative to link moments together. Right? That's its sole job. And it cares nothing about accuracy or truth. It comes up with the first description. And if you want to know what it is, then if you want to see it in action, get in an argument with somebody. Watch your mind when you're in an argument. If you're trying to prove something in your mind, you're not looking for truth. You're looking to be right. And so your mind will come up with anything that it needs to make you right. And then if the argument's a really big one and you finally prove someone wrong, they'll change the argument. They'll just grab another thing that throw you off balance and keep it going. This is the nature of mind, right? This is why we have to know that we are not mind, because if we think we are mind, then we think that we're the ones producing the information coming out of this interpreter module, which we're not. It's just a machine that runs its course, right? And so we pay attention to that. You can see what we've mentioned before, that if you go in and watch your thought, after a while you realize every thought always, without exception, comes out of the previous thought. You cannot create an original thought in your mind that is not directly related to the previous thought. You cannot do it because you are not the mind. and you are not the one thinking, right? You are the observer of thought, the observer of a mind. And you can see that through that one simple exercise. Try and have an original thought, but the mind will originally say, oh, now I'm going to create an original thought. Boop, there's an original thought. But it came out of the thought of an original thought, you see. So it can't happen. So don't be fooled by it. Set it aside. It's a toy for the divine to play with. You know, you surrender and be silent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste, Swami. This is Utkarsh from Atlanta.
Hello, Utkarsh.
Utkarsh, yeah.
Utkarsh, okay.
Utkarsh, yeah. Thanks, Swami. Just like Shailesh brother has said, right? Definitely a very good explanation of what goes all along in our minds. And I have read my part of Swami Vivekananda and Ramakrishna. I have tried to live in a manner, and I used to think that I am more stronger, but we all make mistakes, just like you said. I have made some mistakes in recent past. I am going through my pain in that way, and I think I'm trying to find the solace, the peace, the courage and compassion within me. But one thing which, see, and it's not like this just Vedantic, right? Just like you said, Christian mysticism, Sufism, Buddha himself going through extremes of Jainism, asceticism, and rejecting those asceticism and rejecting the hedonism, coming up with a statement of middle path or a middle way. And all these so-called warriors have said all what have been said from time immemorial and time and time and time and time again. Vivekananda himself said that in the end, but when you say about the mind, it's the struggle against the nature itself which has brought the humanity to the place where we are. Without that struggle, nothing can happen, nothing will change. And that that continuous struggle of taking some action and feeling insecure or anxious if you don't act, right? That is just like you said. I mean, it's to me it seems like an inherent nature of our own existence, right? Maybe you described as that, hey, the never expressed the purusha, the way we talk about in terms of the Shiva, the purusha, and the Shakti, which is ever expressing, ever vibrating, ever dancing. And in that aspect, I'm struggling as part of this humanity, as part of this nature, that when we are already part of this action or activity, right? It's not that easy, because you have your family, or maybe I'm not married, but people have families, kids, they have their so many XYZ stuff. You are absolutely right. We can bring the stuff down, just like Buddha said. Maybe every situation, context, every era, every new era of people will have their own middle way. Maybe 2000 years ago there were not so many desires, so much science, so much technology, so many ways to invest time or go out and invest time, so you could have done less. Now there are so many other options, avenues. So maybe you can, instead, let's say you have 100 avenues of way options to work, maybe instead of 100 you choose 20, but you cannot go to zero, right? That's the struggle which I see, that if you say that, hey, you take out to switch off this mind, or move away from the mind, in that way, how much, I mean, what to get involved in, how to get involved things, where to leave those, that's a struggle overall. I don't know if with everybody else, but with me at least I can see. And then sometimes we make mistakes, then we have remorse and guilt, and I'm trying to struggle, I'm struggling with that, and I'm just wanted to know your thoughts on, no, I'm saying thoughts, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes. All calls to action, whether it's middle path or extreme path, is a koan, right? It's a koan, because if you're not the one in charge of your thinking, if you're not the one creating the thoughts of your mind, then who cares? Who cares what's in there, right? And so all of these things, the nature of a koan is to present a paradox to you. You're not the doer. Ramakrishna tells you that, I don't know, some 30 something times in the in the New Testament, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. He in there says that you know, that you are not the doer. So if you're not the doer, what is Buddha really saying by middle path? You know, he's saying don't be caught in anything. You know, anything that you get caught by will take you to an extreme, ultimately. He's saying don't be caught in anything. And he knows that you think you're the mind, so he's talking to you as a mind. He's talking to you as a body and giving that instruction, because the first thing you have to do is not getting caught in the extremes of the mind, the extreme happiness, extreme sadness, all of those ends. Come to the middle, let it calm down a bit. And when you observe mind, that's when you come to know that you are not mind. And if you get accustomed to observing mind, which is what you're always doing, right? Your thoughts have to be presented to you. It's not that you know them simultaneously as they happen. They actually have to be shown to you. And so if you become acutely aware of that, then you say, well, gosh, if they're being shown to me, then I'm something separate from them, right? And so we go inside and we study the relationship between mind and ourself. How does the mind work? How does it tell me it's in a mood? How does it describe that mood to me? You know, how does it tell me that it wants blueberries instead of strawberries, right? How does discontent arise? How do desires for change arise? And you become a student of mind by watching it, not by thinking anything about it, not by analyzing it, not necessary. That will all happen in the silence of the wisdom of your being. You just have to watch, become aware, right? And it's the same with the body. Turn your attention to the body. How does the body tell you it's sick? How does the body express its tiredness? How does it tell you it wants to go to bed, or that it wants to have a drink of water, right? And understand that, and see and experiencing it demanding all of these things of you, and become accustomed with that space until you know that this is the reality, right? And then when you've done that, then ask the question, where does all desire arise from? It never arises in the witness. The witness never wants anything. All desires come either from body or from mind. They never come from you. And when you get accustomed to watching the body, you will see that. When you get accustomed to watching the mind, you will see that. They keep you deluded, they keep you busy by keeping you running after a myriad of things that they constantly change and demand, right? And we spend our whole life doing that. But if you come to that place of being the witness, and if for even a split moment of a second, you can hit silence of mind, in that moment, you'll become aware of many things. You'll become aware of your nature. You'll know that you're outside of time, because you'll see that time is merely a measurement of the frequency of thought, right? And when you know that, you know yourself to be eternal, and you understand that your eternity is not a long time. It's outside of time, right? You'll come to know a peace, a calmness, that peace that passes understanding because it's not in mind and cannot be held by mind, right? When you're free from mind, you're free from the triads, space-time causation. You're free from that. When you're free from space-time causation, there is no narrative. All narrative requires subject, object, verb, the second triad, right? And then all action requires past, present, future. But you find that to be unreal. Past and future belong solely to the mind. They have no reality, they're conceptual. And that brings you into the moment. And in the moment, there is no narrative, because there is no past, there is no future. In the moment, there's merely manifestation, the manifestation of a divine principle. the unchanging Satchitananda, the noun of love, the noun of wisdom, the noun of being, becomes you, the verb of love, the verb of existence, the verb of wisdom, right?
So
And so,
can I ask a question?
mm,
So in that way, if I understand, right? So we call them, I think in our side, we call some of these people, if somebody has reached stage in that Jivan Mukta, or in Buddhism side, they call bodhisattvas. But does that, when you say, and I intellectually understand this, but does that mean that there is no action remains? How, that person still needs to do action, live in the society, right? They have to continue doing things. It's not like they cannot, they can be without action.
well, you've never been anything but without action,
Yeah.
you see. And to understand that intellectually, think about your dream last night. Your dream last night, what were you doing? You were sleeping. There was no action there. You were just laying in bed.
Mm-hmm.
But in your dream, you built a house, and in your dream, you built a swimming pool and swam in it. And in your dream, you got married and had all this fun. And you thought through the whole dream, all of this is necessary. And now I have to take care of all of these things. And I have to feed this body. And I have to take care of this wife. And I have to clean that pool. Right? And then you wake up. And where is your swimming pool? And where is your house? And where is your wife? They were never there, and none of those things were necessary, right? Now, I can only partially say this with knowledge, in that I moved to Colorado 2.5 years ago, and when I got there, I had $79 in my pocket. Now, I was on a leave of absence from the order because I wanted to do an experiment that was outside the scope of a Vedanta Center, and so they gave me permission to take 2.5 years to do this experiment. But I didn't get support from it. They offered it, but I said no, because I can't do this experiment with strings attached, right? So I left I arrived in Colorado that night, and I had my first month's rent paid already, and the van was paid for that I brought some of my stuff out with me, and so the expenses were covered at that point, and I was left with $79 in my pocket. I lived for 2.5 years paying my rent, my bus fares, my food, my plane ticket for travels to different centers, my all my expenses. This is going to be a tough one to swallow, but I have no explanation for it. 2.5 years of my expenses were covered, right? And I had $15,000 in savings at the end of those 2.5 years. And not a single time did I ask for money, not even in my prayers. Not a single time did I have to do a fundraiser. Did I have to reach out to anyone? Did I have to say anything? There was one time that I was running short of money, and I was feeling like I needed about $500 more a month in order for things to keep going smoothly. But when I prayed, I was on a walk. I was going to meet a devotee for lunch, and I was walking through a parking lot of a church. And I told Mother, as I was walking across that parking lot, I says, Ma, if you want this work to keep going, it seems to me that we're going to need about 500 more a month. I'm not asking for it, but in my view, that if you want things to keep going, if this experiment is to keep going, I think that's what we need. And so then I walked to the restaurant, and I sat there and had a chit chat with the devotee I was meeting. When I was walking back from the restaurant, at the exact parking space in that parking lot where I had begun that prayer, my phone went ka-ching, right? As it does when you get a Patreon pledge. And I picked up my phone and I looked at it, and I had a new Patreon pledge for $500 a month. Up until that point, the highest pledge had been $50. I did not embellish that story.
Mm-hmm.
I changed nothing. I looked at my phone and I put it back in my pocket, and I winked at Mother and just kept walking. I didn't ask. She gave. I was still in the employ of the mother in that sense. So
Mhm.
here's the thing. I don't think that the narrative of necessity exists. I don't think that it's a valid way of seeing the world. The mother has always given you what you've needed, right? Sometimes for you, in that your circumstance, she's giving it through a third party, through your job. But make no mistake about it, she's giving you that money and she's allowing you to carry on your life in the way that it's going on because she loves you and because she has things in mind, as it were, for you. It's not because you've got a job and because you had the qualifications and because you did and you did and you did. Oh, look at the deer behind me, of those things. It's not like that. It's that mother gave you money. I found this out when I was in Colorado. A catty corner across from the room I was renting was the post office, and it had a big banner on a fence that stayed there for 2.5 years that said "Now hiring" in 3-foot high letters. Right. And one day I was walking by that and I was like, Mother, I see this every single time I walk out of my room. I can't imagine that you're not putting it there. Should I go and get a job at the post office? Is that what you're saying? That I should go get a post office? And I said to her, I said, it would make things easier. I said I would then know how much money I was coming because of the way I was living. I had to stay in the moment. I never knew whether there was going to be enough for what was coming or not. And I didn't make that my business. But I was walking by that sign and I said, Ma, it would be easier because then I would know how much was coming every month and I could plan much easier. You see, I could plan actually. Do you see the trick in that kind of thinking? And so Mother said to me, in the way that these things happen, not in any supernatural way. I'm not claiming anything outrageous. But Mother said to me in my own way, she said, let me get this straight. If I give you money through a third party, that's better because then you can plan and you can budget and you can decide what to do. But if I give you money directly, somehow that's not as good. And when I saw it that way in my mind, I just fell in my mind's eye, fell on my face. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. No, I didn't mean that at all. I didn't mean that at all. What a silly, silly notion of mine. Right. So this is the narrative. In this moment, it is faith that's giving you everything that you need. It is your relationship with the divine that gives you everything that you need. And if you come out of that place of hunger and start realizing you are taken care of, then instead of being driven to go to work, you can be inspired to go to work. And if you go to your job and you realize that while you're at your job, I am not a software engineer or an accountant. I'm incidentally an accountant, incidentally a software engineer. I'm here for love, right? And so I take care of people in the office. I find out their narratives, what's going on with their life. I pray for their children. I ask about their children's birthdays. I'm there to love. And incidentally, I'm an engineer, right? And when I'm doing my engineering work, I'm not paying attention to results. I'm paying attention to the only real thing, the moment. And I'm expressing my love and my gratitude for this work and for the gift of my life in everything that I do. So suddenly, through third-party means, I become the best engineer, not because I'm calculating and rising to the challenge, but because I'm working from inspiration and not from being driven, not through hunger. And so I have time to do my very best. I have time to make it beautiful, right? I have
And,
time.
and that and that may or may not work with the corporate world. I try. Many times I talk about compassion, courage, but my managers laugh. They say, "What in corporate world you're talking about compassion, courage?" For them, the meetings is all about politics, who is above who, how they want to manipulate the designations. And for us, and I've not been promoted for a decade. I don't care. Just like you saying, I'm doing my job in the way I want, the best way. Compassion, courage, go out and try to make sure that others in my team, they also try to take that stance rather than just competing with each other, which is a very basic way of working in today's world. Compete, even though you talk. And it's not just like many Indians are Vedanta, or in they are working in going to the temples and all. They're all good people. We all think we are good. It's very easy to think we are good people because good, I say it's a goodness syndrome we live in. because that is very easy. I have family, I have kids, I'm a good father, I'm a good mother. But outside, as soon as there is a hint of disconnect, you have insecurities, jealousies, you run after money, you talk about bad things about your colleagues and all that, and your neighbors and all. So that's not a true Vedantic thought process. Just by thinking that we are good, it doesn't make, just like you said, somewhere you have to be inspired, you have to, and that's the action which comes in. But I really appreciate what you said. My last thing, just, where do you see is the place of uh, redemption, or forgiveness, or in terms of some way of peace? Because even though you think you are doing good, or maybe you tried, but then you make a mistake, there
Well,
comes the guilt.
yeah,
How do you
see,
reconcile with all that?
yes, you can't, because that's not yourself that's doing all of that. That's your ego self, your thought structure. What we focus on in our practice is the unmatched love of the divine that is unconditioned. That's what divine love is. It's unconditioned. So we don't sit down in our practice in order to do anything. We sit down in our practice to absorb ourselves in the idea of a love that's perfect, a love that has no requirement of me, that loves me by its nature. And I find my forgiveness in that understanding. I find my strength and my inspiration in that understanding. And that understanding will bloom the more time you spend in the presence within, in your meditation, right? It will come out of that. And all of these things are revealed in that inner silence. But your act of your meditation, your practice, you're not a doer. And so don't become goal driven in your meditation. Don't think that you're going to attain something or achieve something, because that which you seek, you already are. There is nothing to do but to accept it, to give yourself permission to be loved by God and to have no fear in that love. To give yourself permission to be loved by God and to be radically inspired to act from that love. Give yourself permission to let go of the narratives that you've been practicing now for far too many years, that are now not so much a matter of conviction as they are a matter of habit. When life comes to that, when we understand that we're not living by conviction but by habit, that's the time when renunciation is necessary. Where you just have to sit down and say, look, mind, that has never been true and is not true now. And you banish the thought, right? My mother loves me. The divine is love itself. And I live in response to that, right? It's a practice of surrender, not a practice of doing. It's a practice of acceptance, not a practice of getting or achieving. It's a practice of realization, which means there's nothing to get. It's to realize what already is. And so it's a practice of silencing ourselves so that we're not caught in a world described by the mind, but that we're caught in a moment through which all of these possibilities of God are passing. And that unchanging moment is the I am. That unchanging moment is you. That unchanging moment is everything, right? And that is our nature. These things are what the sages tell us. And their truth, we have to give ourselves permission to accept. That's really our challenge. We don't have to know anymore. You don't have to go to another Vedantic lecture. None of us needs more information.
Mm-hmm.
What we need is to give ourselves permission to accept the information that we have, right? You keep track of your karma yourself. God does not care one whit of your karma. Does not care one whit. 1 Corinthians 13, verses 1 through 8, love keeps no record of wrongs. So the divine is keeping no record of your wrongs. He doesn't have to. He knows that you will. You're the one that will keep track of your record of wrongs, and you're the one that will demand payment for it. You're the one that will demand retribution for it. And that's your game. As long as you place yourself in the mind, you are under your karma and answerable to it. Come to know that you were never in the mind, right? That the universe is within you. Be the observer. And then give yourself permission to lay your karma down through grace at the feet of a divine love, which now you're soaking in. Now you know the depths of. And let life be what comes out of that. Don't make a plan.
Mm.
Don't think of a lack, that what's missing. Accept every moment is perfect and keep going. Right.
Yeah.
It
Thank
takes
you so much.
time.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah,
It
no,
takes
Mother says forbearance, forbearance, forbearance. Be patient with yourself above all. Be kind to yourself above all. Because if you cannot love yourself and you cannot feel that forgiveness for yourself inside, you'll never be able to do it for another.
Mm.
You'll be able to mimic it or pretend it. But until you love yourself and find peace and freedom within, it will never come from outside.
Thank you,
Um,
Swami. Thank you.
Swami, do you have time for one more question?
I think so. Let's see, at 9:28. Oh, I should be logging on with Colorado right now. But yes, let's do one more.
Okay, I'll make it quick. Recently, our whole family was in a pretty significant car accident, but by mother's grace, none of us sustained any serious injuries, including our two little grandkids. And obviously, it's mother's decision to keep us alive and well. And at that moment, I had absolutely no panic. I was joking around with the EMS, and it literally flipped on the side and all that. But my question is, I am full of gratitude that mother obviously intervened there. But I also can't stop thinking, why did she, what should I do with what she's given me? I mean, should I just accept and I mean, should I search for my mind wants to search for a reason, and what should I do with it? So I was just wanting your thoughts on that.
Yes, well, this is why that happened, because it's stirring up your wondering of what is real. What am I gracious? What do I have gratitude for? Right? And she's pointing out, could be pointing out, I'm not going to take the position of telling you what mother's point is. I don't know. But what she's pointing out to you, I can hear in your description, is that you're realizing that you're pouring out your gratitude for things that are temporal. Oh, thank God none of us died. Well, I can guarantee you she's going to come get you in some other way.
Sure. Yeah,
No, nobody gets out of here alive.
sure.
And so she could be pointing that out, making you aware of that. Like, look, your gratitude is based on things that are going to go away. Where will your gratitude be when they do go away? Right? And so she might be saying, put your gratitude on something deeper. I have something more beautiful that I've given you that you haven't found yet. It's lying within yourself. Go find that. That's the very essence of gratitude. You will fall over backwards in awe in gratitude when you touch that for a split second. So she might be saying that in a very gentle way. She might just be encouraging you. See, I am here. I did save you from that on the definitions that you're holding for saving you, right? Because if the same thing had happened and you lost everything, she would still have the same love and it would still be an expression of the same love,
Right.
so consider that in there. But reasons belong to mind and
Yeah.
reasons belong to ego. The world is. It's never good or bad. It simply is. The thing that makes it beautiful is the fact that the isness is an expression of Satchitananda always. The world, the moment, is always an expression of wisdom, always an expression of divine love, always done through your being. And so when life, in this case, was easy, Mother saved you and brought you through, and you can sit and you can ponder that and think about that, and Mother will teach you many things from that, right? But then you also have to remember that that's irrelevant. This moment would have been perfect even if terrible things had happened, it would have been perfect. So ours is to look at this moment and to see the love in every action, to see the wisdom in every action. And if we can learn to find that point, then we will learn to find ourselves, because we are uniquely in that space as the divine self to always know that this moment is perfect. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Jai Ma, be well. Go forward.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Forward. Yes, indeed, my friend.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.